A sentence you wouldn't believe 4 years ago, but now it appears to be true. The Big 12 has outlasted the Pac 12 and the ACC.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every.
That's right, Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox, been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. There's new laws. President Trump signed an executive order yesterday with some guidance on third-party deals, pay-for-play type of deals in college sports. We'll talk about that later on in the show. TCU football kicks off fall camp this upcoming week. We're finally going to get to see these guys in pads getting ready for the season for the first time since spring ball. But we start today with the news that the Big 12 may have won again in a shocking twist. When Texas and Oklahoma left, everyone started writing this league's eulogy. And the Big 12 added BYU, Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF. And a lot of people said, okay, that's cute. Good for you guys. It's not going to last. Well, they outlasted the Pac-12. They ended up picking off the leftovers from the Pac-12. They started, honestly, get the ball rolling on that by getting Colorado in the fold before everything fell apart, even though I know USC and UCLA had made the jump to the Big Ten as well. And now the ACC appears to be on the rocks again. Last season, Florida State and Clemson spent a lot of time publicly talking about how unhappy they were with the ACC TV deal, that their grant of rights is locked in until 2036. They took it to court. There was a lawsuit. Exit fees got renegotiated. And then yesterday, a report from On3 Inside Carolina. North Carolina is exploring a potential move from the ACC to the SEC. According to Adam Smith from Inside Carolina, North Carolina could be considered at the front of that pack to leave the ACC along with Clemson. They are interested in seeking a potential departure from the ACC whenever the next round of collegiate realignment happens. Now, the ACC exit fees, they're going to go down over the next few years. Exit fees are what these schools have to pay to leave the conference. It's going to be $75 million starting in 2030 and 2031. That's a drop from $93 million, which is what it will be in 2029 and 2030. So that's a significant drop off. Now we're talking about something 4 or 5 years in the future, right? And at the moment, it appears all we know is that North Carolina has created a committee that's exploring, like, okay, if we wanted to make this move, would it be a possibility? What are our options? Why is this good news for the Big 12? They're going to the SEC. Well, we're in a world now where we have 4 power conferences. I realize the Pac-12 is trying to rebuild itself. All due respect, I don't think the Pac-12 is on the same level, even though they might end up getting an automatic qualifier for the college ball playoff. But with all these seismic shifts in college sports, we've been talking about the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12. And even though I think the Big 12 is more united than it's ever been, you always have this open secret that the Big Ten and the SEC, when and if they decide to make moves, they're most likely going to dip into those conferences and try to poach programs from those places. And I think TCU and everyone else in the Big 12 would fall in the category of, if one of those conferences came calling, they would at least highly consider the opportunity to make that jump. But the Big 12 and the ACC, even though they might not be, making all the decisions like the SEC and the Big Ten do, they're still right there in the mix in the Power Four. And the ACC is now going through this rocky period where Clemson and Florida State are upset. Now North Carolina appears to be antsy, and they're looking to make a move. There's an opportunity here in the next few years when this kicks off, that the Big 12 could do what they did in the Pac-12 situation and find themselves taking on a few of these schools that maybe don't have a home or that are trying to decide what they want to do next, and the Big 12 becomes a comfortable landing spot. They're going to survive all this. And it's really an amazing thing. Like when Bob Bowlesby was leading the charge, things looked really bleak. It felt like the Big 12 never knew what was coming next. They weren't on the forefront. They weren't on the cutting edge of anything. They were always reactive, not proactive. It was always like, oh no, what happened now? The sky's falling. We got schools leaving. Well, we got to do something now. It was like they never knew what was coming in the future. And Brett Yormark took over, and he was brash, he was confident, and a lot of people laughed at him and said, well, you guys aren't going to do anything. But they found a way to outlast the Pac-12. And it appears maybe they're going to outlast the ACC as well, which is something that I didn't think was possible a few years ago. I really thought TCU was in trouble. I was hopeful maybe the Pac-12 would consider taking them on because I didn't know what the other options were. But something that happened, a really good byproduct of OU and Texas leaving, even though, it wasn't great for the league as a whole, I think it galvanized this league in a way that's helped propel it forward. And what I mean by that is, I really do feel like all the members of the Big 12 right now are pulling the rope in the same direction. There's good unity amongst these member schools. The SEC, for all their bravado and the annoying conference that they are, one thing they do really well, they root for the health of their conference. They promote the heck out of their conference. They push the narrative forward that they're the best and that everybody there is united and they're, wanting the same things for college football. And I don't think this is great for college football. I don't feel like North Carolina leaving the SEC is good for the regionality of college football as a whole, but it's the world we're living in now. And the Big 12, because of those departures by some big brands that thought they were too good to stay in the league, I believe the consequence of that, a good consequence of that, has been a conference that is on the same page with what they want to do moving forward. And I was critical of the league earlier this week when Memphis came calling, because my thought process was, well, if Memphis is going to try to pay their way into the Big 12, it's a no-risk proposition. It's a no-lose situation. You take on a school that's had success. They're going to pay their own way for a little bit, and you reevaluate in a few years. And it doesn't prevent you from adding more schools. It just gives you more of a footprint across the country. Now, pretty much everyone that at least commented on the YouTube video disagreed with me and said, no, there's no reason to take on Memphis. And I think my friend Tommy Fisher said, look, one reason they don't need to take on Memphis is because the ACC is eventually going to crumble. And it felt like maybe the waters had steadied a little bit, but apparently not. North Carolina's ready to go packing. They're ready to make this move. So what if, I know people will laugh, but what if the Big 12 was able to talk Miami into joining? Clemson, North Carolina, yeah, they seem like they're headed to the SEC. Florida State and Miami, sure, they would probably love to go to the SEC. But what if it would make more sense for them to go to the Big 12? But even if that didn't happen, even if they weren't able to pull off one of those big names, Georgia Tech, SMU would make a ton of sense. I know TCU fans cringe at that. I get it. But it would give TCU another natural rival. I'm going to be honest, guys. That's a rivalry now. There's some juice there. SMU's figured it out. They've got that program cooking. That would be a good game to have every year within the conference. Just me being real about it. State of Texas makes all the sense in the world. There are options here for the Big 12 if this falls apart. And Brett Yormark has done a lot of good things. I don't agree with everything that he's tried, but I like that he's been really proactive in trying to find different streams of revenue, working on creative ways to push the branding of the Big 12 forward. I mean, even like it's a small thing, but even like this PayPal deal, they got to deal with PayPal for revenue sharing agreements so they can pay their athletes directly through that. And it's not like it set the world on fire, but for 2 or 3 days, the Big 12 was in the news cycle because Brett Yormark was making the rounds, being like, yeah, we're the first conference to get this deal done. And now I get to talk about how we're moving forward in the college sports space. And I can also use that as a chance to promote my conference and promote the schools and the programs that are there. Ultimately, if the Big 12 wants respect on a national stage, they're going to have to win more games against other conferences and win playoff games. But it appears once again they have outlasted another conference. When not that long ago, everyone was saying it was over, they're still standing here making it happen. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about fall camp, some more college sports news. It's all coming up next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. All right, FanDuel, it's where the game starts. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. One $5 bet for new customers. You win that bet, you get $150 in bonus bets. Baseball games every day of the week. Rangers, suddenly a game and a half out of the wild card spot. They've been playing some bad teams, but hey, you got to beat up on bad teams. Swept the A's, got a series with the Braves coming up. You can do live in-game parlays. There's all kinds of options with baseball. There's also future bets. 6.5, the over-under win total for TCU. Make sure you hit the over on that. I think the Frogs are going to cover and win against North Carolina and Bill Belichick. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. You place your first $5 bet as a new customer. You win that bet. You get $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel, they got deals going all the time, every day. Give it a try today at FanDuel.com or on the FanDuel app. One thing that I'll be watching when fall camp starts up here next week, and I feel like sometimes I talk about young QBs a lot, or I have the last few years on this show, because people are interested in that, right? Like, we want to know what the future of the program is. Josh Hoover's not going to be here forever. We would love for him to maybe play another season. I don't know what the future holds. Right now, I did see in a piece that Pete Thamel wrote that an NFL scout that he talked to had him as like a day 3 pick at the moment. But if you put up big numbers this year, he could work his way higher than that. I think there'll be an opportunity for TCU with the type of NIL money they're giving him to allow him to stick around for another year, convince him to stick around for another year. But that's not necessarily the point of what I'm saying. What I'm getting at is you always want to know what the future of your program is. Haas Haney last year, I mean, he did some good things when he played. He was mobile. He got in there. He ran the ball for TCU. Ultimately, looked at the depth chart, said, you know what? I think I'm going to be sitting here for at least one more year. I don't want to do that. He's off to Oklahoma State. This season, new freshman QB and Adam Schobel taking his first reps in fall camp. And I like Ken Seals. I think Ken Seals was a really good pickup by his coaching staff last offseason. He's got experience starting the SEC at Vandy. He is a dude that if you had to put him in the game, I feel like he would equip himself well. God forbid there was an injury or something happens to Josh Hoover and he had to play, you would still have a lot of your offense at your disposal. He's been in the system for a while. All good things. He really fits the prototype of like a veteran backup QB in the NFL. I would love to see Adam Schobel get some significant reps with at least the second team during fall camp. And the reason I say that is you got to prepare him for the future. And it's a twofold thing. One, it prepares him well for what's coming in the next few years, but also I think it instills confidence and it shows to him and his family that they believe in him and they value him. You know, when Haas left, I believe a big part of it was just when he committed to TCU and signed, he probably thought, all right, I sit for 1 year, maybe behind Chandler Morris, and then I'm the dude. Well, then Josh, to his credit, like took that job and ran with it, didn't look back. And suddenly things changed. I do believe, though, another part of that was when TCU would bring him in the game, he was just there to run the ball. And I mean, it wasn't like it was as early as the Stanford ball game. They had him in there for a series, and I believe he had an injury, and then he was out for a little while. But when he was available and when he was there to play, he was just running the ball. He was getting reps in practice with the third team. And listen, that's the coach's decision. Ultimately, like they've got to live with that. But I don't know that they ever really felt like this was a place where they totally valued what Haas was doing. And so I don't believe you have to coddle your young QBs and make it something that it's not. But I think there's a balance in this new world of college sports of we can show this player, we have plans for their future, we want them to be a part of this program right now, while also maintaining that the dude we got under center is making plays and he's the man, and he's going to be the man until further notice. Sonny said he was talking at coaching school, Texas High School Coaches Association, and he said that TCU was a developmental program, meaning they're evaluating, they're finding guys that fit what they want to do, that fit their system, bringing them in, and then they're spending their money and their resources to try to keep them around. So all this, pay for play, NIL money, revenue sharing, they've allocated a lot of it towards once you produce, we'll take care of you, and then you don't have a reason to leave. Well, a big part of that too is developing relationships with these guys. And in this world now, like I think sometimes we believe it's impatience, or it's almost like an indictment on these players' character. But the reality to me is I think these dudes work harder than ever. Like they all have personal coaches and personal trainers and play football year round. It's super competitive and hard to get an offer, to get a chance to be signed. And all of them want to go play at the next level. Like they have aspirations to be in the league. You can't do that unless you're on the field. And it's tough to be patient when there's always that kind of temptation to say, well, I could transfer and go elsewhere and maybe have a shot at more playing time. Right. So I believe having that relationship and that trust to say, hey, we know you want to play and that's not available right now, but we can spotlight you at times in practice, give you opportunities, just to remind you, like we have a plan in place for the future. It's just not happening right now. And Adam, I mean, nothing's guaranteed. Like even if Josh left next year, Adam Schobel will be competing with Jack Dalton, and I mean, maybe insert portal quarterback here for a starting job. But it does, I think, give him a sense of, okay, this is what it would look like if I had a chance to play right now. So again, this is not a team that has a ton of position battles when it comes to who are your starters, but depth-wise, I do think there's a lot of questions that will be answered. We're going to find out who the starting running back is. We'll get a good sense of like what this offensive line looks like, what the two deep is, outside wide receiver, who's across from Eric McAllister. Are there any young linebackers that are cracking the two deep? What does your defensive line look like once you get past those 4 or 5 starters that you feel really good about? All that will get fleshed out through fall camp in the first couple weeks of the season. And I'm excited to see who emerges. Like Tristan Johnson's a name we've heard a lot through spring practice, young defensive lineman they really like. Again, this will be a big year for Jonathan Bax to show what he can do. There's a number of storylines here. It's just a matter of, how does it shake out on the depth chart? And it's not a lot of who's competing for a starting job necessarily in the traditional way. When we come back, President Trump signs an executive order limiting pay-for-play deals in college sports. What does it mean for TCU? Well, we'll discuss that next year on Locked on Horned Frogs, your team every day. So an executive order was signed on Thursday that is supposed to clarify NCAA athletes' employment status and not allow them to engage in pay-for-play deals. This order would require third-party endorsements to be fair market value and essentially get rid of, when NIL was enacted, it was supposed to be, hey, this business wants to give you a little money to, promote their used cars or whatever their service is. They can do that. What it became is these collectives just kind of making up contracts and making up endorsement deals, paying these guys directly. And it was essentially like, hey, come here, we'll pay you $1 million and we'll figure out, what companies are sponsoring you when you get here. So the College Sports Commission and the NIL Clearinghouse program were already supposed to be doing this. Like, I think all this really does is kind of give more teeth to the College Sports Commission, which is supposed to be the new enforcement arm. And instead of the NCAA, they're going to be making the rules in college football. I saw Sonny Dykes again at coaching school. He had a press conference and somebody asked him, what is your confidence level in people playing by the rules when it comes to revenue sharing and NIL deals being fair market value and that type of thing? And he said 1%. He said he thought there's a 1% chance that people wouldn't try to fudge numbers or push the envelope or break the rules. And he mentioned that they're in a really unique time right now because while there's technically a cap this season, they're kind of grandfathering in some of these contracts. So there were a lot of programs that made a mad dash to get guys signed to these lucrative deals right before the new rules were enacted. And Sonny's been very adamant that TCU is going to, play by the rules and go by this new revenue share system. If everyone is above board about this, I think it's really going to help TCU. Like, I do believe if all things are equal, TCU's going to be able to sell their program, sell the school, and there will be less of other programs just coming in over the top and saying, well, we'll give you this much, money more to come play here. But if everybody's just going to ignore the new guidelines, then it really doesn't help anyone. So I imagine a lot of these things are going to get challenged in court. Like the first time that somebody gets an NIL deal that's rejected for whatever reason, and they're like, well, I think I do deserve $500,000 for, whatever this endorsement deal is, then we can see lawsuits and injunctions and all kinds of things. In the meantime, though, I like how TCU's going about it. Again, I think the player retention model is really smart, and it's up to the coaching staff then to develop that talent and to turn them into super productive players. Like that is now the challenge for the coaches, not just in football, but everywhere, to make good evaluations, to get good value and get these guys where they need to be as contributors. We'll be back on Monday. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I want to get to 1,500 subscribers before the football season starts. We're at 20 away. You can also find us. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Have a good weekend, everybody.